Looking face to face at the 8,000 warriors, it is astonishing to think that this is all built for one man.
It's a very, very powerful graphic representation of that feat he had achieved.
But after the emperor of Qin's death, the Qin dynasty would collapse, and the site of his epic tomb disappeared from history.
So what happened?
First steps of excavation. When archaeologists were called in, they were stunned. What began as fragments soon turned into full statues, soldiers standing at life-size height, each one unique with individual facial features, hairstyles, and expressions. The excavation site revealed a pit stretching hundreds of feet, lined with rows of warriors positioned in military formation as if prepared for battle. But the challenge was immense. The clay figures, though solid-looking, were fragile. Many had collapsed under the weight of centuries of soil. The paint that once covered their armor and faces flaked off within moments of exposure to air. Archaeologists had to work carefully, brushing away dirt grain by grain, documenting every detail. Within months, the scale of the site became clear. Thousands of soldiers were buried here, accompanied by horses, chariots, and weapons. Each was placed with precision, facing east, as if ready to march into eternity. A nation's treasure. News of the discovery spread across China and soon across the world. The Terracotta Army was unlike anything ever found before, a vast subterranean force crafted to protect an emperor in the afterlife. Chinese officials realized at once that this was a national treasure, a window into the grandeur and ambition of ancient China. In 1975, the Chinese government established a museum at the site, ensuring the warriors would remain in place. Instead of transporting them elsewhere, archaeologists built protective structures over the pits, allowing visitors to witness the army as it had stood for 2 millennia. By the 1980s, the Terracotta Army was declared the 8th wonder of the world, and in 1987, UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site. What began as a chance discovery by farmers became a symbol of China's rich cultural heritage and a global icon of archaeology. The farmer's story. For the farmers who made the discovery, life would never be the same. At first, they were bewildered by the sudden attention. Their land was taken for excavation, and many felt both proud and uncertain. Decades later, some of the original discoverers became minor celebrities, signing books or meeting tourists at the site's entrance. But for them, the Terracotta Army was never just an archaeological treasure. It was part of their home, part of the soil they had tilled all their lives. One farmer later recalled, "We were just digging for water. We never thought we would uncover history." Global attention. Internationally, the Terracotta Army captured imaginations. Western archaeologists, historians, and even politicians visited Xi'an to witness the silent soldiers. Exhibitions of selected warriors traveled abroad, drawing millions of visitors from museums in London, Paris, New York, and Tokyo. For many, it was their first encounter with the scale and sophistication of ancient Chinese civilization. The discovery also sparked a surge of academic interest in the Qin dynasty, a period often overshadowed by later dynasties like the Han or Tang. The Terracotta Army forced historians to reevaluate just how advanced China had been over 2,000 years ago. Layers of mystery. Yet, despite decades of excavation, many mysteries remained. Why did each soldier have a unique face, as if modeled on real individuals? How did ancient artisans mass-produce such detailed figures without modern machinery? What secrets still lay buried deeper underground in the untouched tomb of the emperor himself? Ground-penetrating radar and other technologies suggested that the army was only part of a much larger complex, a vast underground city with palaces, stables, offices, and even rivers of liquid mercury described by ancient historian Xi'an. But the central tomb, believed to hold Qin Shi Huang himself, has never been opened. Fears of traps, environmental damage, and respect for cultural preservation keep it sealed to this day. A window into the past. The discovery of the Terracotta Army was not just an archaeological triumph. It was a reminder of the ambitions and fears of one of history's most powerful rulers. Qin Shi Huang sought eternal life, and though his body has long since turned to dust, his army of clay still stands, guarding him across the centuries. The farmers of 1974 could never have known that their simple well digging would change history. But by uncovering the Terracotta Army, they opened a doorway into the ancient world, a world where emperors dreamed of immortality, where art and power merged in clay, and where the past continues to speak to us through silent soldiers frozen in time. The first emperor. In the 3rd century BCE, China was a land torn apart by chaos. For centuries, the country had been divided into rival kingdoms, locked in endless conflict. This was the Warring States period, a time of brutal wars, shifting alliances, and constant bloodshed. Out of this chaos rose a man who would change China forever, Ying Zheng, later known as Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. A childhood in turmoil. Ying Zheng was born in 259 BCE in the state of Qin, one of the 7 warring states. His early life was anything but stable. His father, the king of Qin, was held hostage in another state for many years, and his mother was caught in political intrigues. As a child, Ying Zheng learned early that survival required strength, cunning, and absolute control. By the age of 13, he inherited the throne of Qin. Though still a boy, he was determined to expand his kingdom and bring the fractured Chinese states under one rule. The Wars of Unification. From the moment he took power, Ying Zheng pursued an ambitious vision: to unify all of China. The Qin army was ruthless, disciplined, and modern for its time. They used advanced weapons made of iron, sophisticated crossbows, and effective military formations. One by one, the rival states fell. The Qin army conquered Han, Zhao, Yan, Wei, Chu, and finally Qi. By 221 BCE, after decades of war, Ying Zheng declared himself not just king, but Huangdi, emperor. He became the first man to rule all of China, earning the title Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of Qin. Building an empire. Unifying China was only the beginning. To maintain control, Qin Shi Huang introduced sweeping reforms. He standardized the written script, making communication across the vast empire possible. He created a uniform system of weights, measures, and even currency, ensuring trade could flourish. He built massive roads and canals, linking distant regions. His government enforced strict laws rooted in the philosophy of legalism, which believed that order could only be achieved through harsh rules and punishments. But his ambition went further. Qin Shi Huang ordered the construction of massive projects, including the first version of the Great Wall of China, built to keep out northern invaders. These projects required hundreds of thousands of laborers, many of whom died under brutal conditions. Fear of death. Despite his power, Qin Shi Huang was haunted by fear, the fear of death. Ancient Chinese beliefs held that the afterlife mirrored the living world. Just as an emperor ruled in life, he would need an army, servants, and treasures to rule in death. But Qin Shi Huang was not satisfied with preparing for the afterlife. He sought to escape death entirely. Legends say he sent ships to distant seas to search for the elixir of life. He consumed potions made with mercury, believing they would grant him immortality. Ironically, these very potions may have hastened his death. The Tomb Complex. To secure his rule in eternity, Qin Shi Huang ordered the construction of an enormous underground mausoleum. Work began as soon as he became king, when he was only 13 years old. Ancient records state that 700,000 laborers were conscripted to build it. The mausoleum was no ordinary tomb. It was designed as a subterranean empire, complete with palaces, stables, offices, and rivers of flowing mercury to represent China's waterways. Above all, it was guarded by the Terracotta Army, thousands of soldiers, each unique, standing in silent formation. Every warrior was crafted with meticulous detail. Facial features, armor, weapons, and hairstyles all differed, giving the impression of a real, living army. Horses, chariots, and even generals were included, all to ensure the emperor would reign supreme in the afterlife. The cost of power. The creation of the tomb came at a terrible price. Workers labored under harsh conditions, often in secrecy. Legends say that when the work was complete, many of the craftsmen and laborers were sealed inside to keep the tomb's secrets safe. While Qin Shi Huang created a united China, his rule was marked by fear and cruelty. Books that challenged his authority were burned. Scholars who opposed him were executed. His people admired his achievements but lived under constant dread of his punishments. Death of an emperor. In 210 BCE, while traveling through his empire, Qin Shi Huang fell gravely ill. Despite his obsession with immortality, death could not be avoided. He died at the age of 49, leaving behind a legacy that was both glorious and terrifying. His death was kept secret at first, as his advisors feared chaos if word spread. His body was transported back to the capital in secrecy, concealed by carts of rotting fish to hide the smell. Eventually, his corpse was laid to rest in the grand tomb he had prepared, surrounded by his Terracotta Army. Legacy of Qin Shi Huang. Though his dynasty lasted only 15 years after his death, Qin Shi Huang's impact endured. He had unified China for the first time, created systems that survived for centuries, and left behind monuments that still stand today. But perhaps his greatest legacy is the Terracotta Army, a testament to both his ambition and his fear. Thousands of silent soldiers remain, watching over their emperor as they have for more than 2,000 years. Qin Shi Huang's life was a paradox, a man who conquered death in memory but could not escape it in reality. The Terracotta Army stands as proof of his desire for immortality and as a reminder of the extraordinary cost of absolute power. Inside the mausoleum, beneath the earth of Xi'an lies not just a burial site, but a hidden kingdom. The Terracotta Army is the most famous part of the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, but it is only one piece of a vast underground world designed to mirror the empire he ruled in life. The army revealed. Excavations since 1974 have uncovered thousands of clay soldiers arranged in precise military formation. Today, archaeologists estimate that more than 8,000 soldiers were created, along with 670 horses and over 130 chariots. Yet, remarkably, much of the army still remains buried. What astonishes experts and visitors alike is the individuality of each figure. No two soldiers are exactly alike. Their faces bear unique expressions: stern, calm, proud, or watchful. Hairstyles, armor, and even shoe styles vary. Some appear youthful, others older and weathered, giving the impression of a real army frozen in time. Standing about 6 feet tall, the soldiers were built slightly larger than life, perhaps to emphasize their strength and authority. Generals are taller, dressed in elaborate armor, while lower-ranking soldiers wear simpler uniforms. The realism is breathtaking. Veins carved into hands, wrinkles etched into brows, and mustaches styled differently across the ranks. Craftsmanship and techniques. Creating thousands of life-size figures required extraordinary planning. Archaeologists believe an early form of assembly line production was used. Body parts like legs, torsos, and arms were crafted using molds, while heads were individually sculpted and then attached. Artisans added personal details by hand, ensuring each face was unique. Originally, the terracotta warriors were painted in bright colors: reds, blues, greens, and purples. Over time, exposure to air caused the pigments to flake and vanish, leaving the statues the grayish color we see today. Modern conservation efforts have preserved some traces of paint, giving us a glimpse of how vivid and lifelike the army once looked. The warriors carried real bronze weapons: swords, spears, crossbows, and arrows. Many were sharpened and fully functional. Tests show they were treated with a protective chromium coating, keeping them rust-free for more than 2,000 years, a technique that astonished modern scientists. Military formation. The warriors are arranged in 3 main pits, each laid out like a battlefield. Pit 1 is the largest, holding thousands of infantry arranged in rows, backed by war chariots. It represents the main force of the Qin army. Pit 2 contains specialized units, cavalry, archers, and chariots positioned for support and flanking maneuvers. Pit 3 is smaller, believed to be the command center, with officers and a war chariot, symbolizing the leadership of the army. The placement reflects Qin dynasty military strategy, showing not just artistic detail, but an understanding of warfare and hierarchy. Beyond the soldiers, the mausoleum contains more than warriors. Archaeologists have found statues of acrobats, musicians, and officials, suggesting that Qin Shi Huang intended not only military protection, but also entertainment and governance in the afterlife. Clay horses, complete with saddles and bridles, stand ready to pull chariots. Stables and barns have been unearthed, along with figures of servants and attendants. The emperor's tomb was imagined as a complete world, a functioning empire underground. The central tomb. At the heart of the mausoleum lies the unopened tomb of Qin Shi Huang himself. According to ancient historian Sima Xi'an, the tomb contains palaces, rare treasures, and rivers of liquid mercury designed to mimic China's great waterways. Modern surveys with ground-penetrating radar confirm the presence of unusual chemical signatures, consistent with high levels of mercury in the soil. The tomb is believed to be sealed with elaborate traps, including crossbows designed to fire at intruders. For now, the central tomb remains untouched. Archaeologists fear that opening it would destroy invaluable artifacts, just as early excavations caused the paint on the terracotta warriors to vanish. There are also ethical debates. Should the tomb of the first emperor remain undisturbed, out of respect for cultural heritage? A subterranean city. The scale of the mausoleum is staggering. It spans more than 38 square miles, making it one of the largest burial complexes in the world. The Terracotta Army represents only a fraction of what lies underground. Excavations have revealed office-like chambers, suggesting that government administration was recreated in clay. There are also models of towers, walls, and fortifications, as if the emperor intended to recreate his empire in miniature beneath the earth. This concept reflects ancient Chinese beliefs about the afterlife. Just as the living world had rulers, armies, entertainers, and officials, so too would the world beyond. Qin Shi Huang prepared not just for burial, but for eternal reign. The symbolism of the army. The terracotta warriors are more than soldiers. They are symbols of authority, order, and power. For Qin Shi Huang, who unified China after centuries of war, the army embodied both his military might and his desire to project control even after death. Each warrior represented a piece of the emperor's vision of eternity. They were not built for the living, but for the afterlife, ensuring that Qin Shi Huang would never be vulnerable, never without protection, never without power. The awe of visitors. Since the museum opened in 1979, millions of people have walked the paths above the pits, staring down at the silent ranks of soldiers. The sheer size of the army is overwhelming. Visitors often describe feeling as though the warriors are watching them, their clay eyes alive with history. For many, the Terracotta Army is more than an archaeological site. It is an encounter with the past, a moment when the line between history and eternity blurs. The Terracotta Army is both a marvel of craftsmanship and a mystery of history. It stands as proof of what human ambition can create, but also a reminder of the costs of such ambition. Qin Shi Huang's army has stood for over 2 millennia, waiting silently for the world to rediscover it. And yet, even with thousands uncovered, the greatest secrets still lie buried in the unopened tomb at the heart of the mausoleum. A reminder that some mysteries are not yet ready to be revealed. Archaeological challenges. The discovery of the Terracotta Army in 1974 was only the beginning of a much larger challenge. Unearthing thousands of clay soldiers, preserving them, and understanding their secrets turned out to be as monumental a task as building them in the first place. For archaeologists, the Terracotta Army was not just a treasure trove. It was a puzzle filled with fragility, danger, and unanswered questions. Fragile giants. At first glance, the terracotta warriors seem strong and imposing. Their 6-foot-tall frames, sturdy stances, and solid clay bodies give the impression of durability. But after more than 2,000 years underground, time had weakened them. Many had collapsed under the weight of earth and roots pressing down for centuries. Others shattered into hundreds of fragments when exposed. Early excavations often uncovered piles of broken limbs, crushed torsos, and scattered heads. Reconstructing a single soldier sometimes took months or even years, like piecing together an enormous jigsaw puzzle without instructions. Even today, archaeologists continue to reassemble soldiers from fragments still being unearthed. The vanishing colors. One of the greatest tragedies of the excavation was the loss of the warrior's original colors. When first created, each soldier was painted in vivid hues: deep reds, bright greens, purples, and blacks. Their armor gleamed, their faces carried lifelike skin tones, their clothing bore intricate designs. But as soon as the figures were unearthed, the pigments began to peel and flake away. Within minutes of exposure to the dry air, the once bright paint disintegrated, leaving behind the dull gray clay that most visitors see today. This discovery shocked archaeologists. What the world marveled at, the stoic gray army, was in fact only a shadow of its original splendor. The Terracotta Army was never meant to be seen in monotone. It was intended as a vibrant, living force of color and detail. Science to the rescue. Preserving the fragile paint became one of archaeology's greatest challenges. In the 1990s, Chinese archaeologists partnered with German scientists from the Bavarian State Conservation Office. Together, they developed new techniques using polymers that could be sprayed onto the warriors immediately upon excavation. These polymers sealed the pigments, preventing them from flaking away. Thanks to these advancements, more recent excavations have revealed figures with traces of brilliant purples and blues still intact. Conservation scientists now continue to refine these methods, making it possible to save more of the Army's original appearance for future generations. Advanced technology. Modern archaeology also relies on non-invasive technology to explore the site without damaging it. Ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, and 3D scanning allow researchers to map underground chambers, detect anomalies, and reconstruct what lies below the surface. These scans suggest that much of the mausoleum remains untouched, with vast areas still waiting to be uncovered. Beneath the central mound, believed to contain Qin Shi Huang's own tomb, anomalies suggest the presence of large structures, palaces, and even liquid mercury. The central tomb, a forbidden chamber. The emperor's burial chamber is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. Ancient historian Xi'an described it in detail. Palaces filled with treasures, ceilings inlaid with jewels to represent the heavens, and rivers of flowing mercury representing the Yangtze and Yellow rivers. Tests of the soil around the mound have revealed mercury levels far above normal, lending credibility to the ancient accounts. But the chamber remains sealed. Archaeologists hesitate to open it for several reasons. First, technology is not yet advanced enough to guarantee preservation. If the tomb is opened prematurely, the treasures inside could be destroyed, just as the warrior's paint vanished when exposed to air. Second, there are fears of ancient traps. Records mention crossbows set to fire automatically at intruders. Whether myth or reality, the possibility adds to the risk. Finally, there are cultural and ethical concerns. To disturb the emperor's tomb is to disturb one of the most sacred sites in Chinese history. For now, the resting place of Qin Shi Huang remains untouched, an eternal mystery beneath the mound. The scale of the task. Excavating and preserving the Terracotta Army is a project without end. Only a fraction of the site has been fully explored. Pit 1, the largest, continues to yield new discoveries with each passing decade. Each statue must be carefully uncovered, stabilized, restored, and documented. Weapons and artifacts require their own conservation. Teams of archaeologists, historians, chemists, and engineers work side by side, blending ancient history with modern science. The site has become a living laboratory where conservation techniques are tested and improved with every excavation. In many ways, the Terracotta Army has reshaped archaeology itself, forcing scientists to invent new methods to meet unprecedented challenges. An unfinished story. Even after 50 years of excavation, experts estimate that much remains hidden. The Terracotta Army is vast, but it is only one part of the mausoleum complex. Entire chambers of dancers, musicians, and other court figures are believed to exist. Palaces, stables, and administrative offices may still lie buried. For now, patience guides the work. Archaeologists move slowly, knowing that haste could destroy what time has preserved. The unopened tomb of Qin Shi Huang stands as both a temptation and a warning. The greatest treasure of all, perhaps, but one that must wait until the world is ready. The Terracotta Army is not just a monument to the past. It is a challenge to the present, demanding that we balance discovery with preservation, curiosity with caution. It reminds us that history is fragile, and that the secrets of the past can be lost forever if we are not careful. For now, the clay soldiers stand watch in their silent ranks, guarding not only the emperor, but the mysteries that still lie buried beneath the earth of Xi'an.